the Daily Ramble podcast. Happy Saturday, West Ham fans. I hope you're all well. My name's Nick. This is Claret and Booze. If you're new to the channel, as I always say, please subscribe. Please subscribe. And most importantly, drop a like on the video. Do it now rather than in about 5 minutes' time when I've probably annoyed you, because you'll forget about it. And you might forget to undo your like, you know? So that's good. It's good. This is going to be a show where I'll probably tell you what you're not going to want to hear. Well, I think so. I don't know. I'm going to caveat this, by the way. I am. I get a lot of flack sometimes when I do come out and we get a lot of information. We're not connected to the club. We're not in any way, nor will we ever. We will never be connected to the club. I've got no interest in getting information from David Sullivan or Brady or anyone like that, because once that happens, you're in their pocket and it's a two-way street. You're compromised. I've got no interest. None. Nobody uses Claret and Booze. It ain't going to happen. As you all know, with the Duran deal in particular, we've been way ahead of the curve. We released that story weeks before anyone else that we'd put a bid in and that he was our primary target. And around about the same time that I released that story, Romano was linking him to Chelsea, saying it was a done deal more or less with Chelsea. And I was saying, no, it's not. He's primary target at West Ham. He wants a West Ham move. So on this story in particular, I'm in the know. I'm not in the know on everything. I'm not. I'm definitely not. But on some things, I am. This is one of them. So we're going to be talking about the Duran deal, the saga that's been running for weeks now, or stretching into months almost, and how we've kind of arrived at Fullkrug, because it kind of made no sense to me. So we're going to talk about it in depth now. So, yeah, I'm leaving myself open to criticism as usual. I'm sure I'll get slammed by the usual sources that try to mitigate any PR disasters for the club. But here we go. Right, so back at the start of the window, Tim Steiten, he's obviously been mandated with a list of targets, both from Sullivan and Lopetegui, primary areas that need addressing. Striker was top of that list. We know that Sullivan has struggled to get a striker, a successful deal for a striker, really. They've all flopped. Every striker we've ever bought has flopped under Sullivan. It's just fact. It's just what's happened. So Steiten has been tasked for the last year and whatever else to identify a striker target to come in and fit this new style that we're going to be playing. So, he did that. And look, Duran was identified. And at the start of the window, Aston Villa saw Duran as surplus to requirements because they had to recoup some money. They was nervous. They was shit scared. They was in breach of PSR. They had to recoup money. That was a time to go and get him. We were told at that time we could have got him for 30 million. 30. If we'd have bought him at that point, when Aston Villa were on the ropes, they were shitting themselves and they had that player that they deemed surplus to requirements. They could make a decent profit on him. That would move them away from the PSR threshold. What Tim then did is he went out to Brazil. Okay? He went out to Brazil looking at Bruno, looking at Wesley, and he eventually came back with Guilherme after about 3 weeks. Burned a lot of the window. Now, Guilherme, I'm very excited about. It's a good signing. I am excited about it. I'm sure he's going to turn into a fantastic player, but it was not a priority. That was not a priority position for Palmeiras. He's played predominantly on the right-hand side. We've got Kudus and Bowen that play there. We know that one day he's going to click and turn into a great player, but we could have got Guilherme at any point in the window. We wasn't really fighting anyone for his signature. Tim just seemed to be, he wanted to get that pearl, because he's got the pearl diver tag. He wanted to live up to it, I think. He got that done. So fair enough, fair play. 25 million. And by the way, it isn't 25 million because the deals for Brazilian players are heavily structured on performance and everything else. So it might grow to 25 million at some point, but we haven't paid 25 million for Guilherme. It hasn't happened. But a good signing nonetheless. Then we went and got the Max Kilman deal done. And then we placed a bid for Duran. Well, by this point, Aston Villa had sold, what's his name, Douglas Luiz. They'd sold him for 50 million, moved him out of trouble. And they were quite annoyed because they were under the impression that we were going to bid for this player. They was against the clock. They had to get a sale in. They've done that. In the time since, they've also sold Diaby to Saudi for another 50 million. They're not a poor club. The only reason they had to sell was to move them away from that threshold. That was it. They don't need to sell now. So now the asking price has gone up. It's gone up. They're not desperate anymore. We missed our window of opportunity to go and get him for 30 million. That's what we did. We got our priorities all wrong. And we targeted Duran later on because we was, like Aston Villa are desperate. We'll get that one done. We know the player wants to come to us. We'll do that one after. And we've dicked around. We've dicked around with it. It's been going on for weeks. Now, David Sullivan is stamping his feet and he's got the ump and he's frustrated. Probably you could say rightly so because he knew that we could get this player for 30 million and now Villa have gone 40. Because we've dragged our heels and because they're not desperate now. It's a different situation now, you know? So Tim has been trying to manufacture a deal, some form of deal to get this player over the line within the parameters of that Sullivan has now given him because he doesn't want to pay an extra 10 million for the fact that we've had to wait a few weeks. He doesn't want to do it. So the maximum that Sullivan has been beaten into submission to go for on this player is 32.5 million. So that is what we've offered. Tim has offered 32.5 million. He's put together packages with clauses and stuff like that. And you know there was international clauses. There was goals scored that would have taken it up to about 36. There was a 10% sell-on fee. That still wasn't enough. Tim knew that Aston Villa wanted Duran. We wanted Alford. We knew that they wanted Alford. We valued him at 5 million. Aston Villa valued him at 3. So Tim absolutely 100% did do this because he's been trying to get the deal over the line. Tim did offer Alford as part of that deal. It wasn't Sullivan. I thought it was Sullivan. It wasn't. It was Tim. So to Aston Villa now, that's 35.5, 32.5 in money, plus a 3 million player, plus the clauses, does take it close to 40 million, but that still wasn't what they wanted. They didn't like the way the deal was structured. It's us trying to do this clause-heavy deal. Every deal that we seem to do is packed full of clauses at the moment. And Aston Villa are saying, no, 40 million, I'm not doing it. You've dicked us around, I'm not doing it. Also, in the time since, Duran has spoken to Lopetegui and Tim 6 times, at least 6 times face-to-face. They've convinced this kid that he is coming to West Ham, that they're going to go all out for him. Now, we've seen him misbehaving. We've seen him doing the crossed hammers on screen. And that's not been received well by Aston Villa as a club or a fan base. In fact, I think he's taken his social media down. He's been getting all sorts of shit, death threats and all sorts off the back of this. He's been encouraged by West Ham as part of this game to help drive his costs down. So his position at Aston Villa is untenable. We've given this, because he's 20 years old, don't forget, he's young. We've given this kid some false reassurances that we're going to get him in, but we've told him that, we can't pay that much money, and they've probably involved him in the game to try and force a move for himself. That's what they've done. Aston Villa are aware of this, so they're digging their heels into the ground even more. Now, this is completely and utterly kind of destroyed any semblance or possibility that Duran could continue at Aston Villa. He's got to go now. But Villa are they're being stubborn. They don't like the facts. They don't like what West Ham have done and the way that they've acted here. Now, the person that brought Duran to West Ham in the first place, because it wasn't Tim, the directors of football themselves don't go out and scout players. It's all about who they know. It's their intermediaries that bring these players to Tim, and then Tim, they have a look at them with their analysis team, and they'll go, yeah, we'll go for that player. All right, Tim doesn't watch all of these players. He doesn't. It's all about the people that they know. And one of the key people that Sullivan has always dealt with, and one of the guys that was responsible for bringing Tim into this job, is also the one that brought Alvarez and Kunduz to West Ham. Again, Tim analysed them, said, yes, we'll go for the deal, went and got the deals over the line, but he wasn't the ones that spotted them. Well, this guy is the one that brought Duran to the table. So they've hit a brick wall in terms of what West Ham are willing to offer, what they can offer, because of the constraints that Sullivan's now put in place, and what Aston Villa are willing to accept. The guy that kind of introduced him to West Ham, the guy that I talked to, he's now set up a deal with Aston Villa with no clauses, 35 million cash, spread over 4 years. Right? So it's gone from 32.5 plus Alford, plus all of this, which was 40 million, down to 35 with no sell-on clause, nothing. So it's gone up 2.5 million. What the player has also done is agreed to take a £20,000 a week pay cut. on a 6-year contract that he'd already agreed, which equates to about 6 million, so I'm told. So he's agreed to take a hit for West Ham on personal terms to offset the additional amount, more than offset it. You know, another 2.5 million would do it to offset that amount to get this deal done. The player wants to come to West Ham. But we've got an issue. It's politics in football. You'd think Tim would just be happy here, but no. This would make Tim look silly, obviously, wouldn't it? It would do, because Tim hasn't been able to negotiate a similar sort of deal with this player. It's taken somebody else to get involved to get to this stage. That's happened in the last week. And in the last week, we've been linked with Fullkrug. Now Tim has turned his attention to Fullkrug. This is now the player that we want. This is the player that we need to get. And I don't understand it. I don't know. For a start, I'm not even talking about the age profile. I don't know if you've got a vision on how you want your team to play, how you can go from Duran to Fullkrug. They're very different players. You know, you've got Duran, who is he's a big player, but he's fast. He can run the channels. He can dribble. He's got a great shot on him, a great strike. He's actually prolific if you look at his goals per minutes ratio in the Premier League last year. He's Premier League proven. His goals per minutes ratio, they're better than Ollie Watkins. They are. He scored 5 Premier League goals with no bloody minutes, and he scored 3 European goals. His goals per minutes ratio, I saw it on Twitter the other day, it's better than Ollie Watkins. This is a player that was given no time in the Premier League, but then when he did get time, he smashed it. They brought him on when they was 3-1 down against Liverpool at the end of last season. He scored 2 goals, brought him back into it. The player's explosive. He's fantastic. He's made for the Premier League. Absolutely made for the Premier League. Fullkrug, no, there's no guarantee that that's going to work. No guarantee at all. So, and they're different profiles. I look at Fullkrug like a Weghorst. He's that type of player. He's a big target man. Good player. Good tidy player. But I've got concerns. And my concerns about players from the German Bundesliga, I mean, we've got experience of it ourselves with Haller. Was prolific in the Bundesliga. Came over to us. Not prolific at all. Went out again. Did really well in Holland. Went back to Germany afterwards. You know, fantastic. You look at Timo Werner, prolific in the Bundesliga, struggles to hit a fucking barn door over here. You look at Kai Havertz, outstanding in the Bundesliga, struggles over here. The biggest example is probably Jadon Sancho, superstar in the Bundesliga for Dortmund. Man United paid a ridiculous amount of money for him. He was shit. They sold him back. He's turned into the same player again. So there's definitely a disparity in the Bundesliga in terms of either technical quality or intensity or a combination of both. It's obviously easier for some players to play in the Bundesliga than it is over here. People are saying at Fullkrug it's like we're signing the German Harry Kane. No, I think Harry Kane scored. We saw how shit Harry Kane was in the Euros just gone. Well, he scored ridiculous amounts I think like double the amount of goals that Fullkrug scored. This is a man that's never scored 20 goals in a Bundesliga season. He's 31. He's a decent, tidy player. And the reported sum, because I've got no information on the Fullkrug deal, none. I'm only seeing what you guys are seeing, is that we're looking at around about 30 million for a 31-year-old with no resale value whatsoever, with no guarantee that he's going to be a success. In fact, if you look at what I've just told you about the success of players typically that come from the German league into the Premier League, it ain't great. The odds are that that's more likely to be a flop than the Duran deal, which we could get for 5 million more. And if he does well, Duran, we've tripled our money. If this player does well, he's done well. We're still not going to make any money on him because in a couple of years' time, he's 33, 34. His career's over. So it makes no actual logical sense to me whatsoever that we're going to be going for Fullkrug and we're going to be ignoring this Duran deal because Tim doesn't want to look silly. He doesn't want to cut. He would rather cut his nose off to spite our faces. That's what I'm being told, by the way. This is literally the conversation that I've had this morning. I'm giving you it, verbatim, word for word. This is a conversation that I've had this morning with a very, very, very good source. The guy that gave me the Duran information before anyone else. He's very involved in this deal. He's very involved in West Ham as well. Not so much at the moment as he used to be since Tim come in, but he's very, very. He knows what he's talking about. So let me know what your thoughts are on that. I'm going to talk about the Somerville deal and everything else because he's done. He's done his photo shoots, I think, now. So the medical's passed. He's done his photo shoots. The deal's been agreed. He's going to be unveiled at some point today. That is fantastic. You all saw what on the video that I done the other day, what I think of that signing. Brilliant. Fantastic. And I'm going to do another show probably later on for release tomorrow on the new Argentinian central midfielder that it looks like we've signed on a free transfer and what that might mean for the youth academy. So I'm gonna talk about that as well. It's a good signing, by the way. I think he's a good, tidy player. But don't forget, I didn't want Kante. And I didn't want Kante because I didn't want our youth being blocked. So if we were, just to give you a bit of an insight, if we were to sell James Ward-Prowse and or Souček, I'd be happy. But if we're keeping those two as a backup and pushing Potsurfy and Alford to 6 in line, they're never going to get a game. We're just blocking the development of our players. Not happy about that. I'm going to talk about that another time. So like I say, later on. But let me know what your thoughts are on that. For me, it's just a big please, please, please go out and get Duran. The player wants to come to us. He desperately wants to come to us. We rarely have players that desperately want to come to us, West Ham. We've not helped put him in a good situation either with Villa. We've been party to this. It's very dirty. It's very sticky. The only reason we've got to pay more is because we dragged our heels. So just stop the politics. It doesn't matter. Look, Tim, every now and then you're going to make mistakes. All right? You are. It's going to happen every now and then. You know? I'm sure you wake up in the morning with your 90s haircut. You know, you look in the mirror and you go, this is how we do it. Well, this is not how we do it. It's not. You've got it wrong on this one with Duran. You need to fix it and swallow it and make it back in another deal. We've got money back on. You can't get everyone right. But this Duran deal, please, swallow your pride. Get this deal done. Sullivan, pay the money. Just pay the money. It's only 2.5 million more. Oh, I'll be so excited if we get Somerville. Well, Somerville's done. But if we get Duran as well, I'll be over the moon. Fullkrug, if he comes in and he puts a claret and blue shirt on, I'll support him. But I'm going to be so underwhelmed by the signing. I'm going to be amazed if he does amazingly well. Because the odds are it's going to be another meh striker signing if it does happen. A very fucking expensive one as well. But look, that's it from me. I hope you enjoyed the show. Like I said to you, I'll put this stuff out there. I'm putting my head above the parapet. I will get shot at. A lot of people are not going to like what I'm saying. I get that. They're going to tell me I don't know what I'm talking about. You always get it wrong, blah, 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 blah. Fact of the matter is, if I've got information like that, and this is information that I think is good to release for West Ham because I want us to sign Duran, I think Duran is a more important player. So I think this story does need to be out there, not just the gaslighting, powder puff bullshit stories that you get told on how we've ended up in these situations by other people. But here we go. I'll speak to you all later. Enjoy the rest of your Saturday. Come on, you irons. Claret and Booze are proudly sponsored by Fore Security Solutions. Fore Security specialise in electronic security and building intelligence. We provide a complete service suite from detailed design, expertly managed projects, as well as unparalleled 24/7 aftercare packages. If you've got any opportunities that we could assist you with in your business or at home, please reach out directly to me on the email at the bottom of the screen or via the details in the description of this video. Who knows? It might even be me that comes out to survey your requirements.